Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and we're going to be doing another hobby stream today, something a little different. I need to kind of break up from my painting of just Horus Heresy stuff. As much as I love painting my Sons of Horus, I need a break. As you can see, actually, can you see from here? I got my drop pods right back there, all 5 of them done. And my local buddy Ned of the Ineptus Astartes podcast, which you should definitely go listen to, is in possession of my Charybdis Assault Claw, which is it's going to be a mammoth project. But I hope to have it all done very soon. And today, just to give myself a little painting break, I am going to be hanging out doing some Conquest First Blood. Now, Herald of Man, we are here at the start of the stream. Yes, let me get my chat moved over to where I can see it a little easier. I'll pop on some music because I like my little chill lo-fi list, and we will jump into it. Now, I say it's a Conquest stream at the top because that's what I'm painting, but if you have anything that you would like to talk about, please do not hesitate to ask away. And let's see. Where are my speakers? There we go. We got some cool tunes going now. Sweet. So I'm going to go to the downward cam here. Apologies, it's a little intense, isn't it? Yeah, it sure is. I, like a dingus, took my my workspace, I don't know what you call it, the mat that I had that I was usually working on downstairs, and I keep forgetting to bring it up, so my bad. I have a video going out Monday that is going to be inviting everyone to partake in a Conquest First Blood slow grow thing that I'm doing, so you are getting an early glimpse into that video. Starting at 400 points. So 400 points looks a bit like this. 2 units of men-at-arms, one with 6 dudes, one with 4 crossbowmen, and a leader with 2 bodyguards. So that's what I am. That's some high quality wood grain right there. Yes, the best that IKEA can offer. Oh man. So let's get into it. It's so strange. It does not look nearly as, like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, cold in real life. That's just the camera trying to adjust. Okay. Well, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. I'll set it later. Let's see. But I see we got one shout out for Conquest from Ken Don. Hey, hey. Let me ask everybody else, what are y'all working on? Let's get some... and also, these guys are not going to be uniform. The only thing that's going to be uniform in this faction, because I want them to all like bring their heraldry from whatever town or whatever they're from, the only uniform guys are going to be the bodyguards, who are going to be predominantly in black, just to make them stand out a little bit. So let's jump into Avalorn Sunset, one of my favorite GW colors. Pop this sucker in as soon as I get it shaken up. But yeah, I actually played a game of First Blood a week ago now, and I had an absolute blast. My local Vanguard is an awesome guy. He is much more interested in the full army version of the game, but I just sincerely believe that the core mechanics of what Parabellum made of the Conquest system, they just work better for First Blood. That's an opinion. I think it's that way because it's a much more fast and in-your-face aggressive game. And I like it. I like it a lot. So we're going to start off with some yellow right here. I like a good, dirty yellow on soldiers. Because I'm sure at one point this uniform looked super good. Working on Chaos Legionnaires for Warcry at the moment. Very cool. Painting my Spire drones. Many drones. So many drones. Yes. Yes, I understand. Another reason why I like First Blood. For me, a miniatures game is perfect around like 30 models. That's my personal fave. And the reason I say 30 is because at that point, you know, you have stuff to paint. You can see real progress when you're doing painting days and stuff. But it's not so cumbersome that A, it's a pain in the butt to transport. I put all of my 100 Kingdom stuff into a shoebox. And B, like if you have a unit that you really, really like, even if it's not great, it is very helpful when it doesn't have to take up an inordinate amount of your list. Like, I can just have a unit of swordsmen that, you know, they don't have to be amazing or baller or anything like that, but it's an easier way to splash new things into a faction. And I guess the same thing goes to an extent for Warcry and not Kill Team so much. There's a lot more bespoke armies in Kill Team. But yeah, like, you know, I have to build a certain way kind of a thing, which I was not really a huge fan of, but whatever. To each their own. It seems to be doing good. Good for them. Any of you guys play the new Kill Team? I'd be very curious. What are your thoughts on it? We'll do this. We'll get a guy and we'll make him... Ooh, someone just went by ripping on a truck. Okay. We get another guy. Looks very similar, but we'll make their shields a little bit different. Maybe I'll do a quarter pattern on this guy's shield. Great timing. Just in from priming Tzeentch Chariot. How long have you been on for? About 3 minutes. Perfect timing indeed. Indeed. Let's see. I'm keen on painting 17 stands for the same model then. Oh, I mean, I did. I had a Spire army. It's not that I'm not a fan of painting that many models. It's that I don't want to move that many models when I play a game. I feel like ever since I played, I don't know if you play Age of Sigmar as well, but since I played the Beasts of Chaos, which is a horde-focused army, that's the only thing that's relevant that you really need to know about it. I have realized that I need my models to be hardy enough to stay on the board to justify the painting time that it took. Like, if I spend more time deploying and moving a unit than it does like actually contributing to my enjoyment, it goes. No moss. I spent way too much time just packing up models that I put on the table and they didn't do a dang thing. I'm just going to be real sloppy here with my cross sections because I don't know what that other color is going to be, so we'll clean it up when we do that one. But this gives us a nice little rough outline. Cool. And I'll tell you what, I'll take one of the shields because I like yellow. I don't know why. Whenever, so I don't know if any of you guys have ever been to medieval times. I always wanted to be on the yellow team. I just think they look cool. Actually, I'll have the other shield be something else. Maybe matching symbols though, but okay, so that's us there. Let me get one archer. He just kind of has this billowing cloth here, so we'll just do that instead of the whole model. Here you go. Not cool. I'm not looking to make my archers all crazy colors too. What's next? Let's grab some base colors. I see there's questions in the chat. I will get to them in just a sec. I like Thousand Suns. Stegodon scale. Let's see, we got Mornfang Burn. I'm just picking random base colors at this point. Caliban green. Alrighty. Yeah, let's jump in. So, ones that have most of their body painted, I'm just going to throw over here to the left. Okay, let's see. Nice, I'm painting along then. Sweet. I play a lot of Kill Team and run local tournaments bi-monthly. Really enjoy it. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. If somebody, Michael, I'll ask you since you are our resident expert at the moment. If somebody wanted to get into Kill Team, how would they do it? Like, what is the minimum necessary purchases? And I ask because I'd like to try it, but I don't think I'll ever get into it. Not because I don't know it enough to say if it's a good game or not. I don't know a thing. But the reason I say probably won't is because locally, people are not happy about Kill Team. Like finding local people to play with, which is really my main source of motivation when it comes to hobby and stuff like that. It's non-existent here. Oh, he has like a coat thing. Well, so I guess they kind of went all in on all of the previous iterations of Kill Team, and so when the new one came out and invalidated everything, they were just like, we're done. I'm like, well, I get that. That is definitely the risk that GW runs by invalidating books every year or something like that. Like, you lose people, but they got more. You know, it's a tough balance. How do you feel about a Song of Ice and Fire game from Cool Minis or Not? Movement trays are making things a lot easier. You know, I see it being played in a town like 2 hours away. There's a game store there that I liked on Facebook, and so I see them playing it quite a bit. I have never seen a game in person to know if it's something I would even like. Never seen a person play it. We have a local store that stocks it, but of course, you know, stocking something and supporting a community of it are not necessarily the same thing. This guy's he's gonna be just about all brown. He looks like he actually has some plating on him, so he's gonna be more silver than anything else. Let's divide this one in half. Yeah, another boy with some armor on him. And I'll do a blue on this guy's shield as well. Nice. All right. Yeah, sorry. So I got distracted. I can't really comment on it as a game. I know that I'm not really into Game of Thrones as a setting. Like, the show just didn't click with me. I haven't read the books. Don't really have any impetus to. But I know a lot of people enjoy them, so I'm glad I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad it hopefully outlasted the show's popularity. My goodness. I did, like I said, I didn't watch the shows. I watched the first season and I was like, this isn't for me. But the way that it ended, just from the memes online of what a colossal letdown it was, I was like, well, I'm surprised the game's not dead. Let's see. To be fair, Beasts of Chaos is in a terrible spot. Once they get their new codex, it'll be marginally better. I have long since given up on waiting hopes and dreams like that, my friend, because when the new book comes out, something that people have, whatever crutch people have had in Beasts of Chaos is going to go away, and then they'll have to find a new one. It's just a rotating cycle. Everything is always the best it will ever be. That's a bit morbid, but you know what I mean. And again, we're just laying down some random base colors. Just kind of blocking some general basics out. Nothing too fancy. Sorry about that. Dropping everything left and right. I think I'll spend some extra time focusing on the leader later. Birdie and Forge, hey Doug, happy to see you streaming. Hey, thank you so much, buddy. Playing some Conquest today, my Duag Helm versus Wadroon. Nice. Hope it goes well. Come back with your shield or on it. Let's see. I would recommend purchasing one of the kill teams that have come out, or commandos. They're around $60. Core rules are free online. There are 8 or so options. Okay, cool. That's rad. Let's see. Hi there. Sure, I'm seeing Conquest everywhere lately. Well, Lord of all ducks. It's because it's fun as heck. Yellow, blue, and purple. Painting on an IKEA table. Are these fantasy Swedes? Yes. I really enjoy painting Wadroon. I just don't like painting the Wadroon. Oh, yes, as you were saying, you like them, you just don't like painting them. Fair enough. Hey, Sean, how you doing? What are we painting today? We are painting some 100 Kingdoms by Conquest. Lord of all ducks. So what is Conquest? I see it everywhere lately, but I don't know what makes it different from all the other games. Sure. I'm happy to explain that to you. I'm actually excited to. So, a few things make it different. Let's put up a fictional battle here, right? Let's say we got 3 swordsmen and 3 crossbow guys. Okay? And they're against each other. Now, in a typical war game, I say typical, meaning pretty much anything that Games Workshop makes, the situation you would see here is, depending on whose turn it is, they get to activate. So if it is the men-at-arms turn, they get to move, shoot, charge, and the other player is just reactionary. Conquest is different because it is a mass army game. The full version is rank and flank, but they also have a version called First Blood where you just use these little round bases. You alternate activations. But what's interesting, so in this case it would be you would activate the swordsman, then your opponent could activate their archers. And you go back and forth until all units have activated, which is not crazy or new or anything. What is different is these cards. So there's nothing particularly unique about the cards. It's not a trading card thing. There's no deck building. What it is every unit in the game comes with a card with its name on it. Or you can make your own and fill it out. At the start of the round, you look and you see what units do I have on the table. You put all the cards for those into a pile, and you arrange the pile into what order you want those units to activate. Now that has to factor in how buffs go. Like if you have a hero unit that wants to buff another unit, that has to be built into the order of things. And then you and your opponent stack your decks down, and then you typically roll off to see who wins priority that turn, and then you just flip over the top card. Now what this means is you have to build your entire strategy at the start of the round, but when you flip over a card, men at arms, If I have more than one men-at-arms unit, I can activate any one that I want. But I have to activate one of these things. You get 2 actions. Typically, it's like, move, charge, move, shoot, that kind of stuff. Whatever. There's also aiming and all kinds of different actions you can do. But essentially what it is, it's alternating activations with locking yourself into a strategy. So it really rewards people who have an overall idea of what they want their army to do, but are also able to jump on moments of opportunity. Like if my card flips and I realize, oh my gosh, my opponent went before me and left that objective. Yeah, I have to activate a men-at-arms unit, but I'm not locked into what they're actually doing. So I could change my mind and rapidly go over there and seize it. And then when it comes my opponent's turn, they're like, oh crap, he did that. And then they have to adjust. So there's a lot of mixing of grand strategy of what buffs you need to go off and the order of activation of things, combined with trying to seize every opportunity you get on an activation by activation basis. What else is there? I just think it's a very streamlined system. It is much like a very, I don't want to use the word simplified because that's not what I'm trying to say, but streamlined version of fantasy battles. So if you like the more gritty kind of combat stuff, it's there for that. The First Blood system, which is their skirmish variant, I think is just very intuitive. It's very clean, works very well. The models are fantastic. You don't need a ton of them. Price per model, they seem similar. They might seem similar to GW, but the number of models you need is lower, so it ends up being cheaper. It just doesn't feel that way when you look at the actual price tag kit by kit, but each kit makes up more of an army than a typical unit in AOS, in my opinion. What else? I mean, honestly, other things to just praise the company and the community. They are just the nicest people. You can go onto their Discord, ask a question, and the head designer, they're in there every single day, will answer you and be like, yeah, this is what we did X. Nice. It's so cool. Yeah, those are the main points. Is there any finer points that I missed? Anyone who plays Conquest, or any questions for anyone who's interested? Okay, he's got some paint on him. He's got some paint on him. I think these are my guys who still have nothing. But it's a cool mix. So for me, one of the big things is determining the order of your units at the start of the round helps me, because it kind of takes off some of that analysis paralysis of like, what do I have to do now? What do I have to do right now in this second, in this phase, blah, blah. Kind of takes away some of that and offloads it to the start of the turn when your opponent is also doing the same thing, but then it rewards you for being able to think dynamically during the turn, right? Once everyone's locked on rails as to who has to activate when, it's finding those little moments to catch your opponent by surprise that can be tons of fun. Plus they have, if you want to just see something awesome, Google the Hellbringer Drake. It's my favorite model they produce, and probably one of my favorite models ever designed by men. I have one on my, well, it's tucked away right now. Otherwise I would show you. Parabellum are redoing some of their resin characters in plastic. Any opinions? So they were kind enough to send me an early copy of the Dweghome hero, which his pose isn't dramatically different. He's kind of like arched forward a bit. That's really about it. I like it. I mean, I don't think their resin is bad. Their resin is actually fantastic. You got to remember, all fine cast is resin, not all resin is fine cast. So if you have any ill feelings towards resin because of fine cast, they're not all the same. And I think it's quite good. But people demand plastic, and so they're delivering good on them. I don't really know where to paint on that one. It's kind of an odd guy. You've got paint on you. How about you? Let's just grab your arms like it's a puffy undershirt. I'm pretty sure is what it's supposed to be. Like he's wearing a leather armor vest type thing, and then his fancy poofy shoulders to make him look, you know, more manly are popping at the sides here. Awesome. Is he reading the chat or not? Yes, I am. I just miss questions sometimes. Benny Triad, what's up? Hey, I am doing well. Thank you so much, buddy. Parabellum or... Oh, yeah, I already read that one. Okay, right on. Think GW stopped using Finecast nowadays? Yes, they did. I suppose they might still have some old stock. Yep, that's the case. They gave that up a while back, I believe, if I am not mistaken. But, you know, I mean, it was around long enough to put a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. Which, it's like fair. They weren't great. I personally only had one instance of a bad Finecast model. But I also know that was not the norm. Okay, let's see what we got so far. Let's get some guys further along the process while we get this going. Let me grab Lead Belcher. Incoming. Hey, I just finished painting a unit of these guys. Nice. What are you working on currently? I've got the Old Dominion faction taster right now. Very cool. For me, I am doing a 100 Kingdoms First Blood list starting at 400 points. On the channel, I have a video going out, I believe, Monday, talking about a slow grow league I want to do for Conquest. Starting with specifically First Blood, 400 points, which is basically what all the faction tasters come out to be. So if you'd like to follow along. But all kinds of cool stuff. I like the 100 Kingdoms enough in First Blood. I don't care for them entire, like a whole army of them when it comes to like the main game. And I don't really know why. They don't grip me the same way at large point levels. I think because when I get to a bigger match, I like having some of the crazier fantasy things, and they tend to focus a lot on infantry and traditional cavalry. Of course, they're the only humans in the setting. That's what they have. But I get my fantasy craving for something a bit more exotic every now and then, which is why my main faction is Dweghome, even though I am doing 100k for this. Let's just get that helmet. But yeah, so I'm very excited. I played a game last Wednesday against my buddy Wiley, and oh man, we got a blast. He brought his Wadroon, which I thought for sure I was going to lose very handily against because they're so fast. But they broke upon the character that I created, the Prince on Foot with Brawler. Just makes him better in combat. Was able to bounce right off. And one of the things, I don't know if you guys all saw it on the community page, I've been doing is going and translating old Fantasy Battle skirmish missions into Conquest. So like, I think the one I have right now is Troll Under the Bridge. There's also one called Civil War. Only 2 missions right now. I'm going to be working on more here pretty soon, but I like it quite a bit. It's a good time. Lord of all Ducks basing a bunch of skinks and mulling over how to paint some battle tech. Something about the much smaller scale that makes my brain go ouchie with paint schemes. I get that. Really, really. Because, like, when you have less space to work with, it makes you think about the color choices you make a lot more, because it's like, well, if I want anything else in this army to look unique and different, how do I take what I want to do for this one model and then like extrapolate it across the entire thing? It can be quite a bit. Nice. You guys are going to be awesome. Finecast was bad. I'm glad it's gone. I was there the day Finecast came out. It was a sad day. The trying to think, what was the model? It was a Necron hero, but I can't think of his name. The one that's basically a collector and a librarian. Yeah, his kit. He had the mandatory, once you hit a certain age, flaccid staph syndrome. It's okay. 1 out of every 5 men feel it, but did make him a sad model kit. Resin, yes, that was his name. Thank you. Resin the Infinite. Yeah, that was, let's see, that was actually way back when I lived here first in college out in Iowa. And I wanted to try, well, I was first getting into miniature games. Originally I got plugged into War Machine, then I saw some people playing 40k, and I was like, ooh, those models look cool, so I got some 40k models. They were Necrons. And then I went to the game night for 40k, and there was just a whole bunch of people yelling and arguing at each other because it was 7th edition, and it was the style at the time to just, apparently have yelling matches. So I quickly sold those off. I was like, I don't want to hang out with these guys. Then I got into a fist fight about my deployment drop pod rules, as was the custom of the time. Then I got into a debate about how many models this template covers, as was the custom of the time. It wasn't that bad everywhere. It was purely just my group. But when you're new and shy, and I'm just by nature typically a shy person, yeah, it's a bit much to ask someone to just kind of walk up and be like, hey, I'm new, when you see people all arguing with one another. Let's see. Man, I kind of just jumped right into this without much of a plan. That was probably not smart. Like, I didn't go unit by unit. I just kind of started picking up random models and colors, which is not usually how I do things. I'm usually very organized in the order in which I do stuff, but kind of just, they've been sitting on my shelf for a bit. I really wanted to get the ball rolling on the giveaway and stuff, and so I was just like, let's just do it. My introduction to 40k was with Rogue Trader Tabletop RPG. Even now, I still primarily collect all kits for potential use. No, cool. That's rad. You're an OG then. You're a veteran of the Rogue Trader days. It's hard for me to imagine the evolution of Warhammer from an RPG type thing to what it is now. And I don't even really know what it is now anymore. Like, I would say it's a game, but it's also like a way of life for some people. And certainly if you want to be able to like be good at it. Every lunch break is spent studying the enemy, learning the game mechanics, angrily posting online. My intro was Craft Worlds in the peak of 8th and constantly getting called a meta chaser. Yeah, I had to shut some of that down in Bellevue. I was doing a slow grow league for Age of Sigmar. I think it was when 2nd edition first came out. It was something around there. And we were doing kind of like a small Path to Glory type thing. Path to Glory was different. And some person was like, oh, I want to play, and he's looking at the shelf, and he picked what he thought was the coolest looking faction, which is what you should always do. Picked Flesh Eater Courts at the absolute top of their dominance of the competitive space. And there was some murmuring in the group, and I was just like, hey, no. We're not doing that to a new person. They literally don't know, and so that's okay. It's going to be their little crutch, right? It's a good book, so we'll put it in the hands of someone who doesn't know how to play, and they'll still do all right. And that's exactly what they did. They just did all right. People were so up in arms, and it's like, you read online that Flesh Eater Courts are the scariest things in sliced bread, and then you play in a normal human being in person, you're like, oh, right, they like make mistakes and stuff that I can capitalize, normal things in a war game. But because I don't know, you just assume everything's the way you see it on the internet, I guess. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna do these last two. We'll start to reorganize here, right? Because that'll be a unit of 6 swordsmen, so that'll be a nice place to cap it off. Not for the stream, I meant for the painting project, just so I don't get too scattered picking up models left and right. Just kind of narrow it down to 6 or so guys. Not that much of an early adopter, I'm afraid. Maybe I'm lucky. I don't know. Flyers, not even once. I recently had to intervene when a Daughters of Cain player almost reduced an Iron Jaws player to tears because the Daughters of Cain were losing in a GW store. He was an example of someone who was too deep in the GW lifestyle. Oh, okay. So the Daughters of Cain player was losing and then made the Iron Jaws player feel bad. Is that the tale that I'm picking up? Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of rage quitting and then immediately flipping and selling the armies. Yeah. Not the guy. I just started collecting AOS and Conquest minis. Looking forward to painting, but getting started is intimidating. We'll join alongside next stream. Hey, that's awesome. I don't know if you were here a little bit ago when I talked about it, but I am doing a slow grow league for painting up some Conquest. Just starting at like 400 points. And I have a video going out Monday that has more details on it. But so if you'd like to paint along, it'll give you some very tangible milestones that make things and goals, and I don't know. It makes kind of projects a little bit easier, I think, to have some milestones and some deadlines that don't have consequences. It's not homework. It's just, when do you want to have it painted by? I'd love to have it painted by X. Exactly that. It was an awful... Oh, what a bummer. Yeah, I had that experience. So the army that I play right now for Age of Sigmar is Bone Splitters, and I really enjoy them. It took me a while to get back to them because I actually had a rather nice Bone Splitters army in first edition Age of Sigmar, but people would not play against me because at the time there was a meta list that was very broken, where you could fire, I think it was like 190 arrows or something like that, and you could just way to dice people to death. Like it wasn't even an effort. It was called the Cunning Ruck, and it used to give you a shooting attack in the hero phase, which for a unit like Stormcast, where they have Vanguard Raptors, is problematic, but it's not insurmountable. But when it comes to giving that same ability to, say, a block of 30 Savage Boys with bows, it shuts the game down to a crawl because it just takes so long to roll all those shots. And it was every single hero phase. Well, every one of yours, but you know what I mean. And it was kind of a disaster. And I loved it. I took the battalion once, but yeah, was he role playing as Marathi? I took the battalion once just to see how it did, and I still lost. Like, it's not, I don't know. People got real weird about it, but they would be like, "Oh, you're playing Bone Splitters, Meta Chaser," and it's like, did you even see what my army was? But luckily they nerfed Arrow Boys into oblivion, so you'll never see them again. Let's see. When I started 40k, I picked up AdMech just in time for them to turn OP, and then I started an Orc Buggy list for casual lists right before they blew up. I'm honestly kind of scared to pick up my Blood Pine. It's mostly outcasts, and I hear they're a problem right now. I'm not sure I know what you meant. Maybe it was autocorrect. Blood Pine. That one I don't know. But yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind how strong a faction is. Like, if you are in the game and you have an understanding of how the mechanics work and that kind of stuff, it's important to know where factions kind of fall on a tier list, so you can kind of make sure your opponent has a fun game, right? You can ratchet up the competitive level if you're playing against a faction that is just good by default, or you can turn it down if your opponent is playing more of a fun thing. But so there's value in assessing like how strong an army is. People often mistake, because I don't like crappy hot takes online, and I tend to be more lore focused, that I don't like competitive things. It's like, no, I actually really do enjoy them, and there's a lot of value in those discussions. It's just when you get to the point where people treat all opposing players like they are all going to be the most hardcore meta chasers, it's like, well, what are we doing here then? Are we trying to be the best, or are we trying to like just roll some dice because that's what I'm here for? Like, assuming everyone is trying to go to 11 is a mistake. Sorry is the fluff name for my Sylvaneth. Okay, right on. Oh, I wouldn't. Man, I wouldn't bow down. Heck no. Since it's mostly outcasts. Yeah, outcasts are awesome. I was wondering if that's what you meant, because like they use Outcast in a few different contexts with GW, some in 40k, some in AOS. The Sylvan F Outcasts are awesome. Don't ever be afraid to put those on. Because if nothing else, to be honest with you, they've been so bad for so long that people are going to be like, what the hell is that? And there's nothing more fun than being like, oh, let me tell you my rules. Like how I am when I get to explain how the Wergog Prophet has his laser beam death stare. What does that do? Ho, my friend. Gird your loins. You're about to find out. And then I kill myself anyway, but you know. For a moment, I had him entranced. Right now, we're just grabbing a whole bunch of the leather straps and stuff. And we'll come back around and grab some more later. But we'll come back after we give it a wash and get the rest of them. Are people usually particular about paint schemes or conversions if you're sticking to default rules? No. Not at all. Paint scheme, do whatever you want. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If they complain, I don't know, send them to me. I don't know what else to say. Don't ever worry about that. As far as conversions go, the biggest rule with conversions, in my opinion, is it has to like look like what it's trying to represent. So let's say you wanted to make a vampire and zombie dragon, but you don't like the Games Workshop zombie dragon. Super fair. If you put a rider on something that looks reasonably like a dragon, no one's going to care. If, you bring a Burger King Kids Club toy and you say, this is my vampire lord on zombie dragon, you're going to get some looks, if not refusals. Also, like, in the age of a lot of 3D printed models, just having things look distinct. So one that I notice is people will 3D print Graveguard for undead armies, kind of a deal, because the current models are a bit dated. As long as they look different from your basic skeleton warriors, no one's going to care. If you're going to a large event, just be sure to check in with the event organizer. And typically it's just as simple as sending an email being like, this is what I think this unit is. Is that cool? And most of them say, yeah, cool. They keep it pretty loosey-goosey. Only exception is official GW events. They're less fans of conversions unless you use all GW parts. Or at least a significant portion of GW parts. But like, for example, Viridian Forge, who is in the chat right now, designed for me a fantastic rogue idol of Gork that is actually, it looks like a giant boar, to match my boar-themed bone splitters. And because it's on the correct base size, which is another important thing, and it's a big stone monster, right, which is sort of what the rogue idol is all it's supposed to be, because it vaguely looks like what it's trying to describe. I've never seen a TO say anything but, hell yeah, that's awesome. Please bring this. Take pictures of it. Oops, somehow I missed a shoulder with the silver. Not sure how I did that one. Let's nick that real quick. Torrent Strike. Wait, Spites can dump potentially 30 mortal wounds and want to attack if you roll hard enough. Yep. Yeah, man. Those are great things. Like, you're not, I mean, people get so precious about like, well, what if if I shouldn't tell my opponent what this unit does. I was like, no, 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 tell him. Because there's a whole percentage of people, of which I am one of them, that does not understand what that information means until they see it played out. And it makes for a good show. Jonathan Davis, Doug, where are you at with 40k these days? Do you follow the lore? Tuned out? I'm largely tuned out. I very much enjoy 30k. I have a Sons of Horus army I'm preparing, and in October I'm going to a weekend Horus Heresy thing. And I'm going to take a ton of pictures, so I hope you guys are braced for that. But as far as like the current lore and stuff, I'm a bit tuned out. I like the setting. I really do. Specifically, I like Hive Worlds, Necromunda kind of things, you know, where it has that kind of old Judge Dredd feel, like it did when the whole thing started. But between people just taking it way too seriously, the amount of information that you have to memorize about not just your army, but others to be able to have a decent game, it's so much. The corpus of knowledge is how I've have heard it described is quite a bit. I'm not a big fan of the stratagem system because it rewards whoever can memorize them the best, which is fine, but it's also not why I'm there. I'm not there for a freaking test, right? I'm here to roll dice and make bugs explode if I'm playing Space Marines. So it's just not for me. I would much rather play one-page rules with 40k models because I do think Games Workshop makes awesome models. But yeah. Stephen Church. One thing I always do with conversions of models is mark the original height somehow. I don't want a model for advantaged on ranged units. Yeah, I guess it depends on the miniature and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, the thing is every model is different, right? Because some just their silhouette are very top heavy, some are bottom. It can be a lot of different things, so it's going to have to matter on a model-to-model basis. But at the same time, like, as long as you can tell what it's trying to be, I just have not seen a lot of contention over proxies. And I think mainly it's just because people don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to be the guy who shows up with this crap thing, and it's like, well, yeah, fair enough. I wouldn't make you feel like it was garbage, but I understand the feeling of not wanting that, to have to worry about that. Lord of all Ducks would be okay with refluffing. This is my Vampire Lord on a giant murder eagle. Yeah, of course. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that specific. You can, of course, bring a different creature. But I just, again, just meant it is discernible what it is, right? There's no Vampire Lord on Evil Burb that it's going to get confused with. Okay, just finishing up some shields with... going to be using red as my alternate color for a lot of these. Just because I like it, it pops. And I like when... red is another one of those colors, just like yellow, that when it gets dirty, I think it looks cooler. And you as well. Let's see. Honestly, I wish GW adopted the customizable generic HQs from Horus Heresy. Yeah, that's a big part of it. If you're not familiar, basically there's only like 2 or 3 different types of heroes, generic heroes anyway, in Horus Heresy. And what you do is you then choose upgrades for them that make them something else. So you would choose basically a captain, and then that guy can become a medic or a chaplain, and you kind of just model them however you wish. And that is a really nice system, especially when it comes to the creativity level of players who can then, turn anything to what they want it to be. Is it Zealandy? I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm sorry. What's your favorite piece of GW lore? Any particular line or story or character that lives rent-free in your mind? I like that, rent-free. For me, and I've mentioned it a bunch, it is in the Realmgate Wars. They reawoke Alariel, and she is going to attack the Genesis Gate, the Realm Gate that leads to Ghyran. It's the first strike back against Nurgle since she's been out cold. And instead of like doing what Sylvaneth normally do, where they kind of plan these little ambush and things like that, she just decides to walk straight to the door. And when I say walk, like, it's this epic charge that's described, and basically she is bursting with life magic. And so the visual that I get in my head is I try to imagine this fort in a big open field, and as she's running, they're like the ground is splitting behind her with a forest erupting is kind of what's described. Sylvaneth are being birthed into existence, like in motion, running towards this fortress, and she just brings all nature hell where Fern Gully descends on hell kind of a deal. And I loved that scene. That charge in particular has always been one of my favorite things in AOS. Dryad bark. Okay. Let's see. The Rat. Hey man, found your channel recently. Love your videos, especially the Cursed City ones. Thank you for everything. What am I painting right now? These are some miniatures by Parabellum, and they are for the game Conquest First Blood. It is a skirmish game that I am, at the moment, very much smitten with. And let's see, I'll grab a finer brush. Okay, afternoon. Hey, Pyromancer, what's up? Pyromancer here is joining me in my Slow Grow League, my quest for madness. So I'm actually going to use the brown of the primer as sort of a good base color for some of these, because I want them to look kind of worn and ragged and stuff like that. So what I'm doing right now is just going back over it and picking out any accidental spills of color into the wrong area. Just cleaning them up a bit. That Alariel's charge sounds like a cold hell brass on all. I'm not familiar with that, but right on. I know some people keep their models separated prior to painting to make it easier to do inner details. This seems like it would make priming much more of a pain. Is there a technique you prefer? Yeah, so that's typically called sub-assemblies, where you kind of build certain sections of models to be able to make them more accessible. For me, I am someone... I have a policy, and I would like to invite you, if you are a new painter, to join me. I call it 3 foot fabulous. It means when you play an actual game with these models, you're not looking at them like up to your face like this. Well, actually, when you play a game, they're on the table roughly 3 feet away from you, right? Let's say it's a 4 foot table or something like that. So what you do is you paint to the standard that makes that look good, rather than having to worry about the micro details. All that to say, I do not do sub-assemblies because my logic, follow me here, if I cannot see it when it's fully assembled, it doesn't matter if I put paint on it. You know, if you spend 2 hours painting an area that then gets covered up, the only person who knows that it's there and well painted is you, which, you know, for some people that's important to them, especially if you want to be a competitive painter. Like, they will look for those areas on a model, because that's what separates, you know, professionals and that kind of stuff. But for the average person like you or I, don't worry about it. You can do whatever you want. If you think it's a pain, don't do it. For me, I typically get too impatient. I hate building models, and so the faster I can get that done, the better. And sub-assemblies tends to slow that process down a bit. I have exceptions. I mean, if you're going to get like a really, really big model, like I think I painted a friend of mine's Nagash in sub-assemblies because the swirling vortex thing is just a pain. But I mean, there's exceptions. Every model should be approached a little bit differently, but for the most part, overwhelming majority of models, I do not do sub-assemblies for. Strength Hammer, what's up? How you doing, buddy? Just painting up some Conquest here. And having a grand old time. What's Strength Hammer been up to? You've been on a little hiatus lately, I think, right? Oh. But yes, I am a big proponent of making painting as painless as possible. Doing well. Almost done with the Ringer Army. I'm painting for the US Opens. Nice. Is that Ringer Army for AOS or 40K? I know you do a little bit of both. Also, can I just volunteer to be a ringer guy? Just be like, I'll even wear like a wrestling outfit or something like that. Like, oh, we have an odd man, give him the Mongo, and I'll just come out of there like a WWE. You know, I'll do the whole Randy Savage taunting stuff. That'd be great. I'm not gonna break your army so bad, even eBay doesn't want to see it. Jonathan Davis, Doug, are you playing AOS lately? What armies are you running? So there's not really an AOS scene where I am. I'm in the Iowa City, Cedar Rapids area near the Quad Cities of Iowa. It's just, people just don't like it. They like 40K. I guess a lot of them liked Fantasy Battles. There's actually a rapidly growing Conquest scene about an hour east of me, but they just don't like AOS, and so I don't get many games in unless I travel for an event. Can we do intro music for you? Oh yeah. Yeah, so I don't unfortunately get to play a whole ton, which does affect my motivation for talking lore, but it just is what it is. I'm not a fan of TTS either, so that's kind of out. But yeah, as far as what I do run when I do go to events, though, I will answer that. I love my bone splitters. Specifically because to me, when 3rd edition dropped, the amount of brain power it takes to be good at AOS went up. You're balancing stuff like command points and all these other rules, and so it just got real rough for me to be interested in the game because of the complexity level going up, I think, a little bit. And so the reason I like Bone Splitters quite frankly is because they're so simple. They do one thing. They run forward, right? And if my opponent can deal with it, I lose. If they can't, which actually happens more often than you'd think, given that they're not actually that scary, like stat line wise, I win. And so it makes for a very simple game. I go, I have fun, I catch some people off guard. One of my wins at Vault Wars, which is an event in Missouri, one of my wins. It was my only win. All the games were close, but my win was against a meta chase list. Although the player was very nice. He's not chasing metas. He just saw what was good online and what he could paint quickly. And it was a Stormcast Drake list. And that one I won simply because I had more board presence. I denied him. I am exceptional. I don't toot my horn often, so this is a rare moment. I am exceptional at model placement when it comes to remembering to block out people who can alternately deploy. So like Stormcast can come in from the sky, and so with my massive Bone Splitter list, I can take up the entirety of a 6x4 board. Not literally, of course, but like in terms of you have to deploy outside of 9 inches from an enemy model. I can turn one, charge you with my boars. I can block out massive swaths of the board really without any kind of problem. And that's the strength of the Bone Split is just movement and being a pain in the butt to kill. I moved to a smaller town outside of Austin. Nice. I'm actually from San Antonio, so shout out to Tejas. My town has a great game and hobby shop, but everyone plays 40k primarily. Same here. I was about to start a Nighthaunt army, but my game time is so limited. I get that. I'm kind of that same way. Like, if I'm not actively playing something, I really start to lose steam and interest in it. AOS is an exception because I love talking about it. Like, I love the stories and the artwork and that kind of thing. So it's a big exception. But when it comes to like other games like Conquest, I need to be able to play it. 40k is a hindrance because I don't enjoy playing it. But, conversely, I had great times playing Horus Heresy with my local friend Ned. So, I still have stuff to do. But yeah. Throw down some flesh tone here, one sec. I opted for Space Marines, never got out of style, and eventually I can play with what the community is playing. Exactly. Yep. And I think that's totally fair. It's very valid. I mean, it's also one of those things that you can't see online, right? People can tell you what to play and what games are popular and how to win, but it's like at the end of the day, if you're someone like me, and it sounds like you, who enjoy like the community aspect, literally having people to play against, then some of those decisions don't make that much sense, Choosing to pick up a game that doesn't have a local, fan base or whatever, not a great idea. A lot of comments I get on videos are like, this is great, wish someone played it in my area, and that goes for every game. Cool, all their faces are fully covered. All right. But yes, Space Marines, timeless. I still think it'll be several years before they ever truly devalue some of those classic Space Marine sculpts and stuff like that. We'll see, though. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to bump the mic. So let's see with these guys, what's left? We got to do a wash and then build up just a few colors. I'm not going to go crazy until I get my decals in. So they do need a wash. But that's okay, we can get that in a sec. Got some orange all over my fingers. And right now they're in that awesome hobby space where everything looks terrible. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's just like, I don't know. Before you put the wash on, it all looks flat. Let's grab these boys here. And for them, I want them to be predominantly in black. Because these are my coterie boys, my bodyguards. Not that guy. I wish AOS had some generic dwarves in armor. Fire Slayers are cool, but I wish they weren't all naked. I tried them in Conquest, but they're big, so it's hard to repurpose them. Yeah, I get that. AOS does have a few, but they're in Cities of Sigmar, which is its own thing. It's kind of hard to have a full dwarf-themed list at the moment, though I imagine that book is going to get redone at some point. Well, we know it is because they announced it, but you know what I mean. They announced that it was going to get a fresh look, and there's going to be a series, I think, that follows its development, a la Sisters Bulletin style, which was a thing they did when they released the Sisters of Battle for 40k, like a little, kind of like a blog almost, design blog. I believe that's the plan. But yeah. The ugly phase, exactly, yes. David Whitley, Doug, are you and Jack still working on your Zinch Beastman? No, Holy Havoc, I wasn't able to go. My summer went insane, and honestly, so did Jack's. He had a family member pass away, as did I, and it kind of just threw everything into a tizzy, so I was not able to go. And then I ended up clearing out most of the zine stuff because, quite frankly, it just wasn't holding my interest. Like, I was staring at them and I was like, well, do I want to learn a new faction? Like, I do genuinely enjoy my Bone Splitters, and part of it is because they're simple, and other part's because they're fun. I mean, like, come on now, they just look fun when they're just rushing across the table. And I was like, I don't want to put any more thought into how I do army construction. This is pretty much where I top out in 3rd edition specifically. 2nd edition, I feel like I was much more willing to. In this one, there's just so much to keep up with now that they're doing those like PDF release updates, and I just can't. I just gotta take what I know and what is easy to remember so that I can really focus on what's important, which is making my opponent smile. That's all that I want to do at events. Plus, it's really nice when someone beats me and they're like, "Ha, I beat a YouTuber," and it's like, "Ha, joke's on you. You don't even know how low that bar is. I don't even play this game." Let's see. A guy in my community said he painted all his Fire Slayers with black socks on. Interesting. Okay. He's allowed. I wish AOS fleshed out their sub-factions more. It feels like Sigmarines and Lumineth are the only guys with enough units to be their own thing. Yeah, I would probably throw maybe Skaven, Seraphon on that list. Beast of Chaos, because they do have the Gore, Ungore, War Herd. But I see what you're saying, yes. A lot of them are just like... It's generic faction, but also they kind of like this a lot, you know, where it's like, well, it's not really its own thing. It's... Okay. It doesn't feel special. How about that? The only problem with Iron Jaws is that they play the way Corn should. I very much agree with that. Yes, I feel the same way about not Sisters of Battle, Daughters of Cain. Where it's like, why are you out chaosing the god of murder and bloodshed? Let's see. Fire Slayers, Caradron, Idneth, Sylvaneth. Feels like they all have half units they should. Yeah. I might even throw Deepkin on there too. Although they've gotten a little better. It's interesting. So AOS provides a very unique window into like what they're thinking at GW. Like releasing what seem like half armies and that only do a certain thing. Maybe they're not even the best at that thing. It's very odd. Very, very odd. So when I paint black, I actually start with a Vallejo black gray, because then you can go in and add washes and make it true black in the recesses, and it makes it pop just a smidge. I like that. Cool. One bodyguard down. Let's go to the second. Well, he's not done, but you know. Let me ask this to the chat. What is your least favorite army to play against? And it could be any game. State the game and then the faction. Well, obviously some of them will be a little bit more obvious, but in AOS for me, what would it be? It's probably going to end up being Sylvaneth, and the reason I say that is because my pigs really like to pick a target and go after that, and the Sylvaneth's ability to move and redeploy, kind of like the Stormcast with their prayers, but it's a bit different because they can do it, I think, more easily. So that one's a bit of a mystery to me, but it's not for the poor design or anything. It's simply because I think it's a good counter to what my army does. Let's see if our other guys over here have dried. Looks like they have, so they're ready for a wash. Just give a quick once over. Yep, looks good. Zinch and AOS. My main army is Skaven, and chunking through horrors is not as strong. Yep. Yeah, that's something. Horrors are just, they're always a unit, and in 40k too, where it's just like, it seems really difficult to get them in just the right place in terms of game balance and stuff. And I don't know what, I mean, there's a lot, because there's a lot in that mechanic of being able to split that has a very practical effect on the game when it comes to like board control and those kinds of things. All that to say, you could certainly see that. Anything that brings units back from the dead, flavorful, but it's such a feel bad. Yeah, I get that. When you spend so much time and energy killing something and then it's just like back again. My least favorite thing in any game, regardless of game system, is like a Death Star that is just meant to be tanky. Like, Death Stars that go around and kill things is one thing because it's like a cool combination of effects that typically stack together. And but when all it does is just not die, and you can throw your entire army at something and all it does is bounce off, that's no fun. When anything that makes rolling dice seem pointless in a dice game, I'm not for. I think a pretty good balance to that is what they do with Flesh Eater Courts, and and all of Conquest. All of Conquest does the exact same thing, where instead of having like a complete new unit arrive, you just reinforce ones that have already lost stuff. So then the game becomes, how aggressive can I be with this unit without it being completely destroyed? Because if it's completely destroyed, I can't. The necromancy power stops to have value because you're not adding. You can't add to something to a unit that doesn't exist. And I like that style a lot because the only thing it really changes for you as an opponent is when you kill something, you got to make sure it's like really dead, which is its own gamble and risk and reward. But that's fine compared to letting me kill the thing and then undoing that progress by bringing it right back. Necrons seem to strike a decent balance. Units are durable because of reanimation. Yep. Yes. Yeah, they do the same thing, don't they? They just bring models back to the unit. I forgot about that. But in terms of trying to represent necromancy, I think that's probably a stronger take. So are you preparing these minis for skirmish or army battle? I know one kind of bleeds into the other. Yeah, so mainly focused on First Blood, the skirmish variant of the game. All of these guys collectively are 400 points. And so I think I mentioned it a few times. Sorry, everybody, if this is repeating itself too much. But on Monday, I have a video going out about Conquest First Blood, and that I am doing a slow grow league and invite people to join me in that. My first mile marker or milestone is going to be 400 points, which is, like I said, exactly what's on the table right now. And then from there, probably go 600, adding a new unit, something like that, something simple. And we'll just kind of keep building up from there. I'm not going to go all the way into building a full Conquest army with these guys. The 100 Kingdoms are just for First Blood for me. My Dweg Home are my big army game faction. But yeah, should be a bit of fun. give you a perspective to get into the game of First Blood and have a faction that you can actually play with, like these guys. It's 55 bucks. I'm like, you know what, man? That's dang good. All the rules are free, stats are free, army builder's free. I plan on slow growing with the Fallen Divinity being my end goal. Nice! That's fantastic. That model is incredible. Okay. Yeah, my bodyguards in black still need time to dry. What else can I do? These guys are drying. Where are we at time-wise? Hour and a half. Yeah, it's about where I typically tap out. Hour and a half, 2 hours. So I'll answer one more question here by Jonathan Davis. So what do you get out of Conquest lore that you don't find in AOS? AOS is a pretty big lore sandbox. It is. It is. So there's a few things that I get out of it. One is it's a different vibe. By that I mean it has a lot more of like a Dark Souls kind of art look to it, if that's something you're familiar with. The way that the factions are so intricately interwoven into their history is much more so than AOS. Like the Spires doing all sorts of experiments have created numerous factions. The hubris of man splintered it into a bunch of different like their history is so interwoven with the factions in general that I like that quite a bit. It makes learning about them a lot of fun. I also really enjoy... So, to oversimplify it, it's a fantasy setting that also has aliens. A species came to the planet of Ea and basically was cut off from their homeworld. Their home's destroyed, and they're like essentially a small pioneer research force. And so they're not the superpower that you would think they were, but they create a whole bunch of interesting and compelling stories and, I don't know, just setting-wide stuff. I think it's a very interesting one that rewards building your own characters in particular. Like, there's no named characters in the game. There might be for like seasonal things, but there's no named hero that I can build and do an army. I have to do all of that. And I liked that about early AOS lore as well. Then they got rid of it and started reintroducing named characters. So I don't know. I like the way the factions are interconnected. I love the gameplay quite a bit. I mean, it bleeds over into lore because when you play with units that consistently feel like they do what they do in the lore, it's not a singular thing to point out, but the whole game just kind of represents that. I don't know how else to word that. But, I don't know. I found it compelling. I like the origins of man. It has this cool, like, ancient text kind of feel, and it just seems different. And I like different. Everything seems so Tolkien-esque in a lot of other games, so it's just nice to have something a little bit different. But anyway, friends, I think that'll do it for me. I'm going to go ahead and hop off for the day, but you keep painting, keep being awesome, and I will catch you all next time. Happy wargaming to one and all.